Hi everyone, it is almost 8 o'clock on Sunday night. I don't like that I've left it this late. We're going to be racing against the clock tonight to see if we can keep up with the daylight. I do have a fair bit to say, but I also don't want to have to bother setting up lights. So let's just see how this goes, fingers crossed. I feel like the last 3 weeks haven't been quite as exciting as many of the previous weeks have for me, and it's got me a little nervous. I see it as just facing the final hurdles I have to overcome in my creative recovery. So I think it's good that I'm addressing them, but I feel like I get to the end of each week and I don't have that same uplifting feeling that I've had in earlier weeks. I'm going to put this down. I'm going to start fiddling with that. I'm a little nervous because I have 1 week left now. I just finished week 11. We are on our last week once I'm done this video. And I really hope I can walk away with this book feeling very uplifted, very sure of myself. I mean, I know no matter what, there's going to be takeaways. And again, I have learned a lot from this book, but considering I'm so close to the end, I am feeling a little shaken with my confidence. I've faced a lot of things in the last few weeks that I feel like have maybe set me back or just fallen back into some bad habits. Again, I'm glad I'm aware, and I'm hoping that I can really push through this week and prove to myself what I'm capable of. But I'm feeling a little bit nervous with wrapping this up, if I'm honest. This has been a very nice program to work through, and I'm not so sure how I'm going to do without it. I do think the topics from week 11 really spoke to me, especially the first sort of section. I think Julia touched on a lot of just quick reminders and things to keep in mind with our creative recovery as we continue to grow and pursue our artistic dreams professionally, and how important it is to remove your value from the success and commercial viability of your work. This is something that I've talked about before. This is something I've faced before. I've had my own personal struggles trying to make a name for myself in film recently, and it definitely can be pretty demoralizing sometimes. There's a few reminders in this chapter on ways to make that transition and that growth easier for ourselves. Some of those ideas are creating for ourselves and not for profit, being open to try different things, experiment, make mistakes, and trust that you will learn, improve, and get some insights or new ideas from these. A lot of this chapter was just about keeping yourself open, and in that topic, a lot of focus on avoiding stagnation, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone creatively or just in your life otherwise, doing anything you can to keep your mind active and to keep your imagination free. And in doing so, it will translate into your art. It makes me reflect on my own life and how much change I actually... But there's also a lot to routine though too, you know what I'm saying? Like I guess there's a balance, because I do think there is something to having a routine as an artist too, like not having to put too much mental capacity into how you're going about your day by day. But at the same time, there is also something to switching things up and experimenting and trying things differently to keep your mind fresh and keeping you open to new ideas. Because I definitely feel like in a lot of ways I can be a creature of habit. And again, maybe that's why I feel like some of my work isn't all that interesting, because maybe I'm not doing enough to keep my life different or unique or trying out different things. So it's something to think about for me going forward, is like how I can continually stimulate my mind outside of creativity to make my work more interesting. But I really like this philosophy that you need to engage to be engaging. And Julia very much stresses how our creative desires have to be listened to, no matter what. When I think back on the toughest periods of my life, a lot of them were in stretches where I was overworked and didn't allow myself the time to be creative because I had other things occupying too much of my time. And it killed me inside. It broke me. It made me feel like I wasn't respecting myself. And I think it's very important to be sure that you're always giving yourself some form of outlet for your creativity, because it really can eat you up inside. And this is something that very much spoke to me, because for years when I've been struggling with progressing as a creative, it just, there's nothing that eats away at me more than the feeling that like, I want to do this. I either just am not making the time for myself, or I don't know how. And I'm putting too much pressure on myself, and I'm not letting myself just be, or let the ideas just be. I think that's why I'm starting to feel a lot lighter. It's because when I am being creative, I'm really trying to do a better job of just letting things flow, not question anything. And it's really hard. I'm going to touch on this later, because I have a personal experience in that this week that I want to get into. Some other quick things that Julia touched on in this section were the balance between being an adult and being a child as a creative. And in order for you to successfully do both, you have to have a healthy relationship with both. You have to let yourself listen to your childlike instincts in order to successfully do more adult things, which I honestly think really speaks to me. And I kind of wish I heard that earlier, because I can think of so many times, especially when I was in school, where I would just suppress everything to get things done, to get tasks completed. And it killed me. And yeah, it felt good and in a way validating to know that I was putting so much time and being so disciplined, but it didn't make me happy. And I think it made any other aspect of my life as an adult, taking care of myself even, really difficult, because I wasn't letting any childlike wonder or play out. And I think it's really crucial to have a balance between the two of them in order to do either one of them successfully. And again, that's not to say you should only listen to your childlike instincts, because it's just as important to be an adult as well and take care of yourself and continue to grow. Oh, another quick thing I want to mention. Julia also touches on the importance of surrounding yourselves with people that do nurture you. Because I remember last week, I think it was last week's video, I was talking about how for my own growth, I was thinking that I need to keep people around me that lift me up. But then I started kind of questioning like, oh, but is that still seeking out external validation? And yeah, maybe in some ways it is, but it's good to know that that's an essential part of keeping your artistic life free. Another thing that Julia touched on, which I've been aware of, and I've heard so many of my personal favorite artists touch on this. Julia mentioned the attempts at trying to recapture previous successes are only going to lead to failure or disappointment or stagnation. And it's interesting to think about, because it's so true. I mean, when you think about artists that never evolve, like they just kind of fade into obscurity, or they're very much tied to their time period. And it's a lot of the times our favorite artists that grow, that continue to evolve, that show more depth and more range to themselves than we knew them for. And that's what makes them exciting and interesting. Like David Bowie, for example, like the man was constantly reinventing himself. And in order to have a creatively fulfilling life, it's crucial to do that. And while I love that and I respect that, there is a small part of me that feels like that kind of sounds exhausting, to be honest. Like, it takes a lot for me to just create in the first place, which I'm working on. And again, I'm going to touch on that in a second. But, you know, for me right now at my stage, it's already about, okay, getting to a point where I'm making things that I'm happy with. And then it's thinking like, okay, once I get there, in order to keep being fulfilled, I have to keep pushing. Like it's never enough. It's never enough. You have to keep going all the time. But I think it depends on how you look at it. Because from my standpoint, I'm placing too much importance on being creatively professional and respected. And the idea of throwing that away when it's so far from reach for me right now, Of course, that sounds daunting and intimidating, but if you take a more playful approach, a more imaginative approach, it actually sounds really exciting because it's ways to continually prove to yourself that you're capable of more than what you imagined. And I do think there is something in never being satisfied and always wanting to push yourself further and explore. And also, that's just going to keep life and your work more exciting. Julia mentions that the key in doing this is to just listen to your inner guidance. Find ways to listen to yourself, which I do think I'm getting a lot better at since I've started this course. I think what Julia emphasizes is the way to continually grow with your creativity is to listen to your guidance. What feels right to you? What do you want to progress towards? What interests you that you haven't tried yet? What are you curious about? I think it's taking creativity with an approach of exploration and curiosity that's going to keep this exciting, keep you growing, and make you a better artist. And whether I'm doing it for the right reasons or not, if I want to be a better artist, which I do, that's got to be my approach. And I also think maybe as a beginner, that's something I got to implement more because I'm still figuring out who I am, what I want to say. I don't have an audience yet. In a lot of ways, I'm actually freer to explore than I may ever be. So maybe this is not something I need to just wait for in terms of my success. I can start taking this more exploratory approach now. Another topic from this week was Julia's suggestion of picking up a physical activity to mentally stimulate you. And in being in touch with your body, in being in touch with nature, if it's an outdoor activity, it allows your mind to run freely. And I really like this idea. Whether you can tell or not, am really big into fitness and health. And this is something that has spoken to me and done a lot of good for me for a lot of my adult life. A lot of the time, though, when I do partake in physical activity, I've got music to keep me motivated. It's what I find keeps me going the best. But I really like this idea of tuning out and tuning into yourself, cutting out the music and actually just being present with your thoughts and being out in the world. So I try to run long distance once a week. So that's something I'm going to experiment with in this upcoming week. I don't know if I mentioned this. I was a little bit late getting to this chapter. So some of the things mentioned in this chapter, I haven't gotten. Most of the things in this chapter I actually haven't gotten to yet. I'm going to push them to next week, but we'll get into that. And that's another thing I've really appreciated about this book is, yes, it's about unlocking your artistic potential, but it's so much more. There's so much about physical health and your surroundings and your environment and the people you surround yourself with. It's about an artistic life. And it's not just emphasized on creativity. It's about everything around your life and making sure it's benefiting you. And when you do that, that's what's truly going to make your art better. A lot of this week's tasks were based in wishes for ourselves and things that we want and ways that we can nurture ourselves. And this was eye-opening for me a little bit because it made me reflect on how so many of my wants I feel like I've wanted for a really long time. And again, sometimes I can sort of feel like maybe I'm not progressing as much as I hope. But I also think there's a flip side to that, and I can use this as a roadmap for myself on ways to target these wants directly. I really like how this book forces you to be direct and upfront about the things that you want out of life because it makes the steps towards it easier. Again, I think it's about, as I talked about in week 8, like breaking it down into baby steps and looking at your wants and thinking about, okay, well, how can I go from where I'm at now to there, and just doing it day by day, consistently. Something that's been fucking with me a little bit lately is wondering how much I've truly changed since beginning this book. I do feel there's been a lot of confidence boosts. I feel a lot more comfortable taking risks with my creativity. Risks. But just putting things down, not overthinking it. But something that I've realized is, I've talked about doing comics and doing songs and an animation. A lot of these things are not professional goals. They're things that I do for fun and they're keeping me loose. But it's one thing to make a silly comic. It's another to actually put that into writing my scripts, which has been difficult. And when I think about it, since beginning this course, I still feel a lot of my bad habits when I sit down to write are plaguing me. And that's part of the reason why I feel a little bit worried about this wrapping up. I still feel like I have growth to do. And my writing is a huge obstacle for me to overcome. And I want to be able to feel like I can do this with no blocks successfully. And that's been very challenging for me still. And I guess what I've been realizing is throughout this journey, I haven't really let myself experiment enough with that. So that was a big focus for me this week. And I'm going to talk about my experience with that. I've talked about my short film. And I feel like every time I talk about it, I'm always talking about working on the script. And there've been plenty of rewrites of this thing and a lot of thought and doubts going into it. And I've promised myself that Wednesday of this upcoming week, I am not doing any more major rewrites. The script is locked. I've been spending months working on this thing and tweaking it and changing it drastically. It is so different from how it started out as. And that's fine. That's great. And I think it's in a better shape now. But it's slowing me down. And it's not letting me commit to making this film because I keep thinking, but I need to keep tweaking the script. And it's honestly been the reason why it's been delayed so many times. I'm afraid of committing to this project. And I'm afraid that if I fail again, it's going to be very hard to get back up and to keep going. But I have to. I have to be persistent. I have to be consistent with this. And I think just continually tweaking the script has allowed me to remain in this safe zone where I feel like, I'm getting it done, I'm making progress, but I'm not, because we're not filming the fucking thing. It's an outlet for me to be creative and to keep working on it and feel like I'm progressing, but it's keeping me in a safe space where it's not getting made. So, anyways, this week, I've really been pushing myself to get that script finished. Get it to a point where I'm happy with. I've talked in previous weeks about how I feel like it's taken a turn that I'm a little uncomfortable with. I just don't feel the most confident in the direction it's taken. It just feels a little too out of my wheelhouse. And again, I know there's been a lot in this book about how you need to be open to these things. These ideas come to you for a reason, but there's just a subject matter about this that I feel like is just not quite something I'm comfortable with committing to. So I've been trying to find a way to maintain that while still making it a little more aligned with my values and the kind of films that I'd like to make. There's a balance I'm trying to strike here. Maybe I'm going to end up regretting this. We will see, because I know I need to be open, but right now, as it stands, I feel like I've figured out a way to get there. But anyways, this week I'm kind of getting off topic. I apologize. This week, I really wanted to experiment with writing without blocks, really killing any desire to go and do something else, because that happens all the fucking time, and just sit down, focus, let things come out. And the first day was really difficult. Really difficult. I've talked about this before, but you get a wasted day because you spend the whole day going back and forth on ideas, and it eats you up inside, and you doubt yourself. I'm losing light now. We're going to do a quick location change. I had a very difficult time the first day experimenting with this. Usual issues that I face when writing. It was really hard for me to not judge my writing, to not get in my head about the direction it was taking, to feel confident about what I was doing. And it's funny because it's the only way that works, but it's so hard for me to get myself there. But on the second day, I was much more diligent about shutting down my censor, making myself do the work, write down anything that came to mind and just get it out of me. And I feel like in doing so, it's led me on a much better direction with this script, and I'm almost finished. Again, Wednesday this week, I'm done. I'm done writing this script, and we're getting this fucking thing made. So I'm glad, because I do feel like this is insightful for me. I think the key for me, especially with my writing, but honestly with any other creative aspect that I'm trying to pursue, and that's consistency and just flow, letting flow come out of you, doing anything you can to get out of your own way. And it's really, really difficult for me, but I was able to do it this week. And I think the more I do it and the more frequently I do it, the easier it's going to be. So my experiment for this upcoming week is, can I do this every single day? And what will the final result be? So that's another thing that I'm going to get into next week. And I'm going to talk about my final video. And hopefully that will make me feel a little bit more confident about finishing this course and getting out there and doing this on my own. My arm is getting tired. I'm going to move one more time. Thank you for bearing with me. We are almost there. I just have a final couple things I want to touch on before I wrap up here. And that is morning pages. I did them 4 times this week. Again, I am trying to, when I am in a rush in the morning or I have somewhere I need to be, try to at least get something down as opposed to nothing. And again, unfortunately, no artist date. That's 3 weeks in a row of no artist date. I am a failure. Maybe this is why I am feeling like I'm not doing this fucking program properly. But again, I want to end on a high note. And maybe I'm being a bit ambitious here, but this is my goal with everything else that I've already touched on. Morning pages every day this week. I'm going to do one big artist date this week to make up for the last 3 that I missed. I'm going to try to do a few different things all on the same day, all on my own, all for me. And we're going to see how it goes. So that's a number of things for me to get into in next week's video already. That's a number of things that I'm going to have to make sure I devote enough time to this week. And I will be honest, this week is already shaping up to be a little busy. But I want to end on a high note. I want to end week 12 feeling like I really gave it my all. And I think this is my best way to do that. Now, I want to end this video off with what I think has honestly probably been my favorite task throughout this entire book. We had to write a letter to ourselves, encouraging us in our artistic progress. This is a little personal, but I also am proud of it, and I feel like it is worth sharing. And we are just hitting the sunset now, so let's do this quick. Dear Jonathan, I know you want to be a professional artist so badly, and you are desperately awaiting the day that this can become a reality for you. I know your current situation isn't the best. I know you are so bored and ashamed to be working at 24. I know you annoy you, and believe me, I completely understand the soul-sucking nature of doing PA work. In a lot of ways, your work situation has never been worse. The existential dread you face every day walking into that or arriving to the for a PA shift at the crack of dawn is crushing. I know you want to give up, and you have every reason to feel that way. The fact that you're keeping your head high is astounding. There are so many people that don't have the patience or persistence to stick to this the way that you have. I know it can feel like the situation will never end, and because not much has changed, it perpetuates that feeling even further. I'm so proud of you for sticking this out. Only a true man, like yourself, would have the courage to do so. I know this sucks, but I'm so proud of you for pushing forward. Look at how many have already given up. You haven't. Be proud of yourself for that. I know there hasn't been any real proof of it yet, but your persistence and commitment to your goals, your real goals, is impressive and admirable. It will pay off. In a few years' time, you will be thinking back on this time and how formative it was for your success. In terms of your creative goals, I know that what can make this tough is the pressure you feel, the desire to make great work, the want to elevate yourself to a professional level as soon as possible. I know it is hard for you and has been for several years. Listen, you have what it takes to be a great artist. Don't ever let anyone else make you feel otherwise. I know the long road ahead to your goals is daunting and can make this all feel like a Sisyphean task. However, you have been learning recently how much fun it has been to create with no pressure. Be in touch with your inner child. I know it can feel silly at times, intentionally making your work this intentionally bad. Please keep two things in mind. One, it is better to create something than nothing at all. And two, you can only learn by doing. If making something silly is what's going to get you off your phone creating, it is worth it. Think of how many people you know that do literally nothing in their downtime. You are already further ahead of so many people. You will learn and improve by doing, and you will eventually have the skill set to create more meaningful work. You've just got to build the skill set first. In the meantime, keep creating, as silly as the final product may be, and have fun with it. If you aren't enjoying it, seriously, what's the point? If you're going to put this much time into something you didn't enjoy, you can stick to doing PA shifts. Just keep going. You're going to get there. I know you have this idea that in order to see improvement, you have to work your ass off. And you certainly do. But please don't forget to relax. Give yourself actual downtime and focus on the other aspects of your life as well. In order to be a great artist, you have to be in tune with yourself. Also, your 20s are a tumultuous time no matter what. It takes several years to find your path. You are doing your best, and you will find your way. You know yourself. You know you won't allow yourself to live a life you don't deserve. Every time you have faced obstacles like this, you've overcame them. Keep going. Take a second right now to look back on how far you've come. The toxic relationships you found yourself in, the crippling social anxiety you faced, the extremely low levels of self-worth. I've watched you turn into a man, and I'm so proud of how far you've come. You've got this. I believe in you. Love, The Flow. And we beat the sunset, baby.